So thank you for joining us on Denise N Verdant and Friends for Lush and Verdant Company. So today we're going to do our fun and bright look, and we're going to start with first just removing some sparse hairs. Of course, you can conceal most hair, if not all hair, with concealer and correct application, but it just helps a lot when you can just kind of get rid of those few scragglies. So I'm just using a quick straight edge brush and just cleaning up the sides, and then we're going to go in with our moisturizer. So I'm using Beautiful Amour's avocado and cucumber, but I'm also just going to apply just some extra moisturizer right underneath the eye. Now this is not the appropriate way to do your eye path. Actually, is to actually take your ring finger and kind of pat around the eye like I'm doing now. That's the most appropriate way to not pull the skin. Now you'll see the brows are kind of bushy and just ugly at this point. But I'm going to actually take my spindle brush and I'm just going to comb through because I really want the color more so than anything to really shine through. And I'm just brushing through with my spindle to evenly distribute the color. And then after that, I'm going to take a straight edge or a slanted edge brush with my concealer to really define those brows. Now I've done the bottom portion, which really helps to define the brow, but now I'm going to go up at the top using that same brush. This angle brush is going to be a very easy tool to use to really sculpt the brow because it's already slanted
Once I apply the concealer with this straight edge concealer brush, I'm then going to go in with my blending brush to blend out the color so I won't have that ridiculous look where everything just looks bright only around my eyebrows. So now that I'm done blending in the brows, you'll see that there is still a contrast of color there, but don't worry, I'm applying my primer all over my face with a e.l.f. foundation brush, really getting that in there to prime the skin, and then I'm going to use my foundation in order to blend the colors in more perfectly and also to give my face a more even coverage. Now, I usually use a diffuser brush to do the foundation. It's a lot easier to use, especially with blending because of those very small individual bristles. But I used a foundation brush, and you can just tell it takes a lot longer, but you can still get an even coverage. Now I'm applying NYX eyeshadow base all over the lid and even into the brow area so that the color that I put on is both consistent in depth as well as decreases my chances of creasing. Now that I've used honey graham cracker all over the eye, the base of the eye, I'm now going to take my e.l.f. blending brush and I'm actually using Brickhouse, which is a really nice warm red, and I'm actually applying that through my mid-tone color. Now because it is a bright look, I had to use a muted red so that it wouldn't be overwhelming for my face, especially because honey graham cracker is such a light color on my particular skin. But I'm going to use it as my mid-tone color, and I'm just going to blend it in really well between the brow color, which is, of course, going to be my powder, as well as honey graham cracker. And I'm really going to blend that in so that it doesn't just look like there's 3 different colors there. There's actual gradients. So once you have that well blended or blended to your liking, I'm actually taking a bit of pink as well as a bit of plum, and I'm just using that as my defining color. I'm blending that into both the honey graham cracker as well as Brickhouse to actually just provide definition and also to lift the eye. To help further lift the eye, I'm actually going to take a pencil brush and dip it in Grape and line both sides of my eye. Now after highlighting and contouring, I'm actually taking my Ruby Kisses powder and I'm going to actually pat that right on top of that highlight. I'm using that same foundation brush that I used to blend out the highlights. And I'm going to let it sit there just to bake for a few seconds to really take on my skin so that you can see it. And then I'm going to blend out with a big fluffy brush. After that, I'm actually going to take Golden Girl in Deep, which is a bronzer, and I'm going to use that on a 3 design on both sides of my face and blend with that same big powder brush to give it a more soft feel so that you won't be able to tell the difference from when one color ends and begins. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take that pencil brush and finish that grape all underneath the bottom. So now I'm going to take that same bronzer and I'm actually going to use that same foundation brush that I blended everything out with and just go along the sides of my nose and just kind of making a triangle shape at the end of my nose. I'm blending that into my eyes because it is a very natural color close to my own skin tone, but also because it will help me define my eye without changing the shape too much. I'm sorry, not my eye, help me define my nose without changing the tone too much or the shape too much. So now it's time for my blush. So I've taken Plum Perfect as well as a bit of pink to make this blush that I'm applying with that same foundation brush on the sides of my cheek. Now because of the fact that my face is very round, I'm actually doing it very close to my contour and into my contour, and then I'll take that big fluffy brush and blend. If you don't have such a round face, you can actually just kind of go a little bit more towards the face than in the cheek area or the cheekbone area. Now I've actually went ahead and applied false lashes to the very top. There are 747 lashes in medium, and now I'm just using some mascara for the bottom lashes. I actually have very natural long and bottom lashes, but due to some experimentation, my bottom lashes are actually the longer of the two. So I'm actually just going by each strand and just pulling them out for that dramatic flare to keep it both bright and also to define my eyes. Well, that's the entire look. I've actually applied Nude to my lips. If you have any questions, please go to lushnverdant.com or read the description box for more details. Thank you for joining us.